Hello, I have just come back from the most amazing holiday and I'm going to chat to you about it now. But first I'm going to fix this camera a little bit. I've eaten, I've showered, I've changed, and I am more or less ready for bed, to be honest. It has been a long day. But unbelievably, the plane landed. I could see based off when I messaged my family, the plane landed at 5 to 6. And that's not even having taxied to where we park. That was literally as soon as they say you can go off airplane mode. Immediately I messaged them. So that was at 5:02. By 5:15, 20 minutes later, I was stood in the line for the coach. And I think by 20 past it left and I was on it. 25 minutes to get from sat on the plane with the seatbelt still on to sat on a coach with the seatbelt on. Unbelievable. And that is at Stansted, where you have to take a shuttle from your terminal to the passport area. Amazing, incredible, unbelievable, fantastic, love it. But anyway, the reason this trip came about is because my father was coming to Italy to meet his parents, so my grandparents, for a week there for a holiday. And then they were going to fly back and he was going to stay on and I was going to meet him there if it worked out. Alternatively, he would have come here. But it was looking more and more likely that I wasn't going to have a job, like an acting job, so I would be able to join him in Italy. And then my grandparents sort of threw in the question and saying, what if we stayed on and we went with the four of us? And I was like, I love that idea. I would have been just as happy, I think, traveling with my father. I don't think it's, I'd rather this or that, but it was just lovely to be able to share it with them as well. And the fact that they can do it, I mean, they're getting older and they're still able to do it, and I'm very grateful for that, and I'm grateful that I got to be a part of it. And obviously it would have been a totally different holiday with just my father, but I am very close with him, so it's not like, oh, don't leave me alone with him, nothing like that. We are very close, so either way, it would have been lovely, and this was just very special to share with my grandparents, I thought. And the whole travel is very different. I went with my father to Bulgaria and Istanbul. I think I vlogged that trip. That was about 6 years ago. And that was very much like what I would call almost the cheap, almost earthy. It's not earth, but down to earth maybe, and local and in with the people kind of travel. Whereas my grandparents, I've done plenty of other trips, including the cruise I did 7 years ago. That was with them as well. And that's a little bit more laid back, a little bit more luxurious, a little bit more chill. And so it's just very different styles of travel. And I really, really love both. I have been to Italy before. We were with all of us, all the grandkids and grandparents back a long, long time ago, probably about 15 years ago, I would say. And that was in a resort, and it was very much, we did everything within the resort, more or less. We then, as a family, went to Venice, I think, for a couple of days. And I have a feeling, in my mind, I have it that we also went somewhere else in Italy, but I could be mistaken. And I definitely remember parts of the resort, and I definitely remember parts of Venice, but I can't say it's all crystal clear. And I mean, as I say, it was a long time ago. So I was really looking forward to going back to Italy, and it was around sort of Milan and Lake Como, which is an area I didn't really know much about. I do have family actually from Milan, but that's through, far away. And actually a lot of people I follow on Instagram happen to go to Lake Como this summer, and lots of people were saying how beautiful it is. So I was like, that's a funny coincidence, but sounds great. And I'm a big fan of lakes, to be honest. I'm a big fan of water. I love nature. I really, really, really love nature, if you couldn't already tell from my channel. So I was very much looking forward to this. It was so lovely. You would have seen from the clips earlier on, where we were staying was gorgeous. I loved the way it was decorated. I don't think I got many, if any, clips from inside, but it was just a really nice little apartment. And then it had the most beautiful view out of the balcony, just indescribable. The only thing that was a little bit of a shame was that we didn't really have any clear weather, which for me, I don't mind in terms of heat, but in terms of views, I think it would have been nice to catch a couple of clear blue skies or even pretty sunsets or whatever. I did get one sunrise. I can't remember which day that was. I'll insert a picture here if I can find it, because I think it was nice. I think the picture was good. I thought it was beautiful to wake up to. Not a proper sunrise, but early morning sun, I would say. So yeah, loved that. And we did day trips and whatnot. And it was very chill. And what we tended to do was we'd do an outing for an hour to 2 hours, and then we'd have a coffee or have lunch, and then we'd go out again, and then we'd have another break, and then we'd go out again and have another break. And so it was very broken up, but like little tidbits of, fun and adventure and seeing stuff. And I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed it being relaxed. I didn't feel any pressure, and I didn't need it to be any pressure. Before I continue talking about my holiday, which was amazing, it was really weird coming back, because I traveled with just a backpack, and I've been away for like 4 days, 5 days, so not that long at all. And so I was walking back and it was raining, and I loved the rain. But as I opened the front door, and my grandma's out, everyone's out at the moment, they're all coming back later, I'm feeding myself, I was cooking my own supper, which is absolutely fine. I'm very happy to be doing that. But it just felt so mundane and so normal, and I was just like, you would think that I'm just coming home from a day at work. It does not feel like I've just been away on this incredible trip. That was just a funny realization I had. Anyway, back to the holiday. So we spent 3 or 4 days at Lake Como, and then the last day we went to Milan. And we got to our apartment there, which was not in the city. It was sort of on the outskirts, but really close to a metro station, which was really useful, obviously. And so by the time we'd settled and had lunch and all that, we went to the Duomo, which I had never heard of before. And you got out of the metro stairs, you walked up the stairs, and at least the exit we took was facing the wrong way. And I was at the back. And so my father sort of was the first one up the stairs. And as he got up, he sort of looked behind him and he went, wow. And so I was like, I'm going to do a big reveal for myself. Walked up the stairs, turned around, and it really was wow. I mean, a lot of the architecture, a lot of the churches and cathedrals and whatever they are stunning in Europe. They really are standouts. And, I went to the one in Strasbourg, I went to the one in Cologne. Those ones to me really stand out as just stunning. Or Vienna even, just beautiful. And this one was right up there, I would say. It was just so impressive. And one thing that really stood out to me, and apparently it was Fashion Week there, which maybe, I don't know, we didn't sort of catch much of that, but you really did notice that it was a much higher level of fashion than before built. Oh my goodness, I'm going Dutch. Than, for example, the London, where I live. That was actually, just to sidetrack again, but that was something that I really, really, really loved about this holiday, was that it was 90%, 95% in Dutch, and I love that. If you don't know, which honestly, how can you not? Because I mention it, I think, in every single video, but I am originally Dutch, and I lived there for quite a few years before moving to Australia, and I always missed Holland, and luckily my father was very good about sort of encouraging us to keep speaking Dutch, and that worked amazingly. And I still have a lot of connections to Holland and to my Dutch roots. And I really miss, I've got a Dutch book here in front of me actually that I asked my father to bring, because I just really, really miss speaking and reading and, conversing in Dutch. And basically the only times we didn't speak Dutch was when we were talking to waiters or whatever. But my grandfather is one of those people who can speak 7 or 8 languages, or at least, somewhat. And so very often he'd take charge and speak Italian, and we'd all be like, wow. But aside from that, between us, it was Dutch, 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 and I love that. I just really, really enjoy being in that environment where I can just speak my mother tongue, if you will. My mother tongue is actually English, but whatever. So yeah, I just had a lovely, lovely time. The thing that really stood out to me, I think, in Italy was, and it's a place I really do want to go back to, Rome has been on my list for quite a few years now, and it's definitely, it's on my list, but it's not a priority because it's always going to be there, and it's always going to be busy, and I don't like busy, so I'm kind of that can wait. But what I really, really loved was, first of all, the nature around Lake Como, that was stunning. But second of all, the people. The people were so lovely, so friendly, so genuine, or at least appeared so genuine, and always wanting to help and always wanting to give their all and do it with a smile. And I don't know, it was just it gave me a really warm feeling, and it was consistent. It wasn't, just one waiter trying to please us. It was every single place we went, and for whatever we went, if we went for ice cream, if we went for a meal, if we went for a coffee, whatever it was, people were friendly. Or in a shop, everywhere. So I really liked that. Speaking of ice cream, my one mission, the only thing, I knew nothing really about this holiday going in. I knew we were going to Lake Como, and I knew it was going to be with my grandparents and my father, but I knew very little about the actual concrete plans. But my only personal wish for this holiday was to eat gelato, because I've not even had any ice cream this summer, except once or twice for dessert, but scooped out of a thing, a tub, and it's kosher and parv, and it's nice, but it's not the most amazing ice cream you've ever had. Parv means it doesn't have any dairy, so it's vegan. And it is nice, but it's not standout, and it's, you know, it's fine. And I really craved ice cream this summer, and I didn't get to like hit the spot at all. So it was my one goal going into Italy. And one of the days we found a gelateria, and you know what, it was really hard because we were eating so much good food that like we were eating our meal and then I didn't feel hungry until the next meal. So I didn't feel like I needed an ice cream, which also did feel good actually to like have proper food. I'm going to talk about the food later. That's going to be a whole separate section. But you would eat and then you'd be full and then you'd walk around and then you wouldn't eat. You maybe stop for a coffee or a drink, but aside from that, you'd be good to go until the next meal. And I that feels good. I like not snacking. But this gelato. So we found this place overlooking like a beautiful view. Again, it was around Lake Como and it was absolutely stunning. And actually the sun was shining. It was like the most clear day we had. It was still partly cloudy, but enough of a blue sky that you could see it and enough of a sun that you could feel it. And I think it was my grandma who made the suggestion to my father, and he said yes and I said yes, and we went. And I mean, I was absolutely stumped for choice. There was so many there and they all looked so good. And I thought we were all just gonna have one scoop because again, I wasn't super hungry, but then my father had two and I was like, right, okay, at least I can have two. So I saw one that was like, it looked like chocolates on top, but nothing underneath. And to me, it looked like hardened chocolate and then I couldn't see what was underneath. Or maybe I could and it was vanilla, but either way, I didn't really know what it was. So I asked because it also had an interesting name. It started with a C and I cannot remember what it was. And I asked, I was like, what is this? And she said, I think she said it was vanilla with Nutella on top, but it's actually like swirled through when you get it scooped onto your cone. And I was like, oh, that does sound good. But then they had some beautiful looking fruit gelatos. So like passion fruit, kiwi, lemon, I think they had lime as well, mango, like these gorgeous, and they looked so beautiful. And I really do like sorbets and fruity ice cream. Plus they had more normal ice cream flavors as well, and just everything. They had stracciatella, which is usually one of my go-tos. Like it was so much choice and I was really stumped. And so I asked my father, should I get, I knew I was going to get the Nutella one because I was like, I need to try that looks like a speciality and I love Nutella, so let's go for that. And we're in Italy, we should have the Nutella one. And then I said to him, between like 3 or 4 different fruit flavors, which one should I go for? And I think he suggested lemon and I was like, no, I want passion fruit. And he was like, well, why did you ask then? And I said, well, now I know what I want. So I had the passion fruit and it was so yum. It was so yum. My grandma tried it and then ordered herself a scoop because it was so good. It was just refreshing and like full of flavor and soft, but like, cream, like, just so good, so good. And the Nutella one was also really good. And it was swirled through. I wasn't expecting it to be like an even distribution, but it really was. And like the bits where it was like bits of swirl was so full of flavor. Like it was just so good. So I was very happy about that. So I think that's all the general things about the holiday. One thing I wanted to do separately was go through and talk about each meal we had, because we did eat out, I think basically every meal except breakfasts. And I'm not a huge foodie. I'm really not. I'm a vegetarian, but that doesn't mean you're not a foodie. In fact, lots of vegetarian food can be beautiful, but I'm a very simple eater. Like I like my food plain. I like, not combining things. I like just easy food. I don't need it to be special. I'm not very good at being able to tell the difference in quality of things, not just in food, but just in general. There's very few things where I feel I'm very picky about it or anything like that. But first of all, my grandparents are foodies, and second of all, Italy, I'm pretty sure, is known for its food. Like, well, everyone knows pizza. Also, I'm not a huge pizza eater, so like it was going to be interesting to see what I ended up eating. And I had some incredible meals. And as I say, I'm not a foodie. I'm not someone who usually, would be like, oh my goodness, this is standout. But I had a lot of meals where I felt, this is good. Unfortunately, I don't remember the names of most of the places I went to, but I'll give you the location and just tell you. Also, I may have got this in the wrong order. I didn't keep great track of it. I kind of had to go back every day and like remember what I did, so it may not be quite right, but that doesn't matter. For the first meal, that was after I landed. We sort of drove first to Lake Como because I landed in Milan Malpensa, drove to Como, and then very near down the road from where we were staying, there was this little sort of cafe type thing. It didn't look the outside, the facade was actually quite nice, but inside it didn't look like the most, high-end food. Like it looked very basic. But I had a caprese panini, which was a bread with tomato, mozzarella and basil, I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly. and I really enjoyed it. It made me very happy. Like the bread, that was something that just like every meal, almost every meal, the bread was so good. Like it was such good quality. They know what they're doing, and the tomatoes were fresh. Like you could really tell that as well. So yeah, enjoyed that. Then the second meal was at supper, and again that was very local, and we were just trying to find a quick place because my grandma wasn't very well, so she didn't come out to eat with us, and we just wanted something quick to eat, something a little bit, you know, doesn't have to be quite as nice, quite as fancy, just pop in, get something to eat and go. And that night I went for gnocchi with butter and sage, which they did sometimes do on the ship, and sometimes I loved it and sometimes I was like meh on the ship. But this was so surprisingly delicious. It was so well done. And all three of us, all the meals that we had were so good. I think my father also had a pasta. I think he had buckwheat pasta with something. And my grandfather had, I think, spinach and ricotta. Not ravioli, maybe ravioli, or one of the things that's filled. And for this place that looked like it was going to be a bit more low end, it was really very good. And again, the service everywhere was just, it was great. Really can't complain. The third meal, and this is I think when I decided to start taking things down because it was just worth writing down, was a sort of half lunch because we'd had a really late breakfast, so we just had a snack at like 3 o'clock to carry us through to supper. And this specifically, I can tell you, was at the Villa Carlotta Cafe, also Lake Como Tramezzo area, I believe. And I just had a bit of bruschetta, which we shared. It's huge, you can't eat it, well, I can't eat it on my own, but we shared it, and again the tomatoes were just so fresh, and the bread was soft. Sometimes, very often, bruschetta is like quite hard and crunchy, and it rubs against the roof of my mouth, and I don't like it. But as in the texture, the feeling. But this was so nice. Oh, it was just so flavorful and yummy and good and great. And then actually the standout for me, even though I loved the bruschetta, the real standout for me was I ordered a cappuccino, and it was divine. I'm not a huge coffee drinker. I usually, I want my coffee not to taste like coffee, usually. I need lots of milk and sugar, and if I can add flavours, I'll add flavours. Like, I disguise my coffee. But this cappuccino, I did add sugar, I think. I think I added 1 sugar. But aside from that, like, it was so good. Next, for meal 4, we went out for supper, and I had a Caesar salad without chicken, because this was, I think, a menu where they didn't have many vegetarian options. And that was nice. But it wasn't anything special because it was mainly just a bowl of lettuce with like a couple of other things. But then we also had 2 desserts which we shared, one of which was very special. It was like a white mousse something or other. I don't even know what it was, but it looked special and it tasted yum and it was just very good. And I can't remember now what the other dessert was. It was tasty as well, I remember that. Oh, I think it was a mango panna cotta, and it was nice. It was nothing special, but it was yummy. Then the next meal was the ice cream, which I loved because I've skipped all the desserts. Then meal 5 was for lunch, and again this was a place where I had to ask for something because they literally didn't have any vegetarian options. So in the end it was just burrata, which is a cheese that I was first introduced to in Spain earlier this year and have since become obsessed with apparently, and tomatoes. And again, it was good, it was tasty, but it wasn't amazing. It wasn't like the best thing I've ever eaten. And I did also have a non-alcoholic mocktail there, which was very good. Oh, and I don't think I've mentioned, but at the second meal, the supper, I also had a fresh orange juice, which was also yummy. I may have missed drinks in general, to be honest. But the non-alcoholic mocktail was okay. It wasn't the most, I think it was orange juice and some other things. I can't remember. It definitely looked sort of yellowy orange, but I can't remember what was added. And that was very nice. I've written for that 5th meal. Meal 6 was supper. It was something called pizzocchieri. No, they told us how to pronounce it. Pizzocchieri. And that's what my father had the first night at that unexpectedly tasty restaurant. And mine was a bit disappointing, to be honest, at this restaurant. This was in Leno, around Lake Como, and it was just... My dish and my grandma's dish were really under par, I would say, but my father's dish, which I tried because it had mushrooms in it, was really good, and my grandfather's dish was also good, apparently, but I didn't try it. And then we also had 3 desserts there, all of which were okay, but none of which were amazing. Actually, that's not true. We had a tiramisu there as one of the desserts. And I'm not a huge tiramisu lover because A, as I've mentioned, I'm not a huge coffee lover, but B, I don't like the alcoholic taste in it usually. But actually this was the perfect tiramisu, the best I've ever had. Meal 7 was lunch in Milan, and that was a focaccia pizza with burrata, rockets, cherry tomatoes, and more. And it was insane. This came as this huge plate, and I just didn't even know where to begin. And it was really tasty. I'm hovering on a but. There was something I think I don't think I loved how it was presented, because it was basically, they described it as a pizza, and in theory it was a pizza, but the way they presented it meant you couldn't eat it as a pizza, and you couldn't really eat it with your hands because it was very messy, and you couldn't really eat it with a fork and knife because it wouldn't cut, and I feel like that just frustrated me a little bit, but it was very tasty. It was very good. I can't remember the name. Oh, it was called Pinot, but spelt P-N-O, and that was in Milan. And I think everyone's dishes there were very good as well, but I can't remember trying people's. Then for supper, for meal 8, that was probably the standout dish for me of the week. Well, maybe together with the bruschetta. I went for a meal of the day, and it was this really fancy, pretty expensive thing that I would never go for, you know, on my own. And it was just because I had my family there to encourage me, and knowing that I liked the mushroom dish from the day before, they were just like, go for it. And it was just porcini, which is the mushroom, and potatoes. And it was just really, really nicely flavoured, really nicely cooked, really it felt fancy, it felt class. And again, I had that one with a fresh orange juice, which was delicious as well. Anywhere I could, I had a fresh orange juice, and without fail, every single one was delicious. And then meal 9 was breakfast, and that was in Malpensa somewhere, I don't know exactly where. And I had a pain au chocolat, which was so good. It was one of the best. It was really, really light, but you still had a lot of flavour. Hello, good morning. My grandma came in last night, so I stopped recording, and now it is the next day, and I am chatting to you. And I just want to mention this top, because I've not worn it in quite a while. I don't really know why, but I think it's because it's quite thin, so I always need to wear something underneath it. And in hot summer weather, I don't think I wanted to do that. Although wearing it now, it does still feel quite light, even with the vest, so I could have done it, but anyway. Although I only usually wear this top with jeans, so maybe that's why. Anyway, let me continue chatting. I was almost done with food. I was very close to the end. I think I was talking about the fact that the pastry was just so light and thin and flavourful and just delicious. So I really enjoyed that. And then I also had a Nutella muffin, which in the display, it looked quite small, and it was just like a muffin, and you couldn't see the Nutella, but I just presumed it was inside. When it was served though, it was served with the biggest dollop of Nutella I've ever seen. They were so generous with it. And to be honest, I enjoyed it, but the muffin itself it was a bit dry, I felt, so you did need that Nutella, but then equally I felt like there was almost too much Nutella and it was a bit too sweet for my liking, or a bit too rich, I guess. So I did enjoy it. I'm really glad I tried it, because I had seen Nutella muffins sort of everywhere we'd gone, and I did enjoy it. It just wasn't, I definitely preferred the pain au chocolat. And again, that was with a delicious fresh orange juice. And then my final meal was lunch at the airport, where I had a croissant and a fresh orange juice. And the croissant was okay. It wasn't amazing. It looked like it was going to be really good just from the display, but it was all right. But at least it wasn't expensive. I think it was €2, which felt reasonable, for airport prices at least. And then I had another fresh orange juice, and this one was so unexpectedly yum. It was so fresh, it was so flavourful, it was just really sweet as well. It was really, really good. And that was it. So as you can tell, my main takeaway from Italy was probably the fresh tomatoes and the fresh orange juice that were just top notch, but honestly everything was very, very good and very enjoyable, and I was really able to enjoy my meals, and I was really able to eat a variety of things, which to be honest I wasn't sure I would be able to. I thought every meal was going to be caprese basically, because that's usually my go-to in an Italian restaurant or whatever. Or just a plain margherita pizza if I go for pizza. I was nervous that I wouldn't get to experience a lot of food, as in a wide range, and I really felt I was, and I'm very happy about that. The only other thing to mention about this trip, which I forgot to mention yesterday, but you might be able to tell, is that my stupid cold has still not gone. I think I started to feel sick Friday night, 2.5 weeks ago. Why? And then I started to feel better I would say 10 days later on the Sunday. The Friday I was already a little bit better, a week later, but by Sunday, hello, my grandma came in again, but I've only got 10 minutes now anyway before work, and she definitely won't come in now. She's out, so that's okay. And basically I was just telling you about the pattern of my health, but I've just been editing the last vlog that you would have seen, and I can tell I've already spoken about it a lot. So there's been lots of ups and downs, and it's been 2.5 weeks now, and I'm still not entirely well. And the day I flew, that was probably the worst day I've had, the most uncomfortable day, aside from maybe the Monday night, Tuesday, where my throat was just awful. But the thing was, that was annoying because it was uncomfortable and it was painful, but it wasn't necessarily disruptive. And on Thursday, what happened was my nose was like floodgates, you know, like it just did not stop running, which is annoying enough anyway, and annoying enough anyway when you've got a box of tissues to hand, let alone when you are traveling through an airport, sitting on a plane, and have very limited tissues with you. Like every time I passed a bathroom, I would go in and steal some toilet paper because I just needed to be stocked up. And luckily I do always have like an emergency small packet of tissues, but I didn't want to use them all, and I was going through so many tissues and it was just gross and it was really unpleasant for me and everyone around me. And as soon as I got on the coach in the morning, I did kind of have this stupid realization where I was like, I should have brought a mask and just worn it. As annoying as that would have been for me, because obviously the nose then would have been a nightmare, even more of a nightmare, but at least it would have protected people around me, and I did do my best, and in the end, I don't know if I spoke about this already, but the seat next to me was free, the window seat, so I was able to move up and hopefully not directly infect anyone, but that was annoying. And the first night after we arrived, we went shopping. We did like 2 lots of shopping, and on the second lot I said, I think I need to buy a box of tissues because otherwise we're gonna have no toilet paper left in this flat. And literally at the airport on the last day, yesterday, I finished that box of tissues, so it lasted me well. The first 2 days, Thursday and Friday, my nose just was constantly running, and then after that I think it wasn't as bad, but there were moments where it was just like, just not happy. And I was coughing, and the first night I could not sleep because I couldn't breathe. It was very frustrating. So yeah, I did have a cold on the holiday, and that was a real shame. It didn't stop me from doing anything. It did make me a bit worried because, you know, my grandparents are elderly and don't have the strongest immune systems. And my father, like, he's continuing to travel on, and I don't want to get anyone sick. I don't want to get anyone sick, but especially not my family. So I'm hoping they're all going to be okay. I did at one point, I'm very much one of those people who doesn't like to take paracetamol or whatever, but at one point before bed, my father said he had this cold and flu tablet, so I just took one every night before bed. And that did help, so funny that. So it was frustrating, and I'm still not well, and it's very annoying. And I really hope I'm better by the time I go to Australia, because I do not want to be sitting on a 24-hour plane with all this. And it keeps changing, like some days it's the nose, some days it's the throat. A couple of times it's been the ears as well. It's the ears now, I can tell, and I just like, everything's a bit foggy when I'm listening. Like I was trying to edit the video and I kept having to like change the volume to be able to hear it. So yeah, just annoying, just really, really not necessary. But then equally, you know, I think this is the first time I've had any form of cold or unwellness, probably since COVID, like since I had COVID, February 2021. No, February 22. So, you know, one cold every 2.5 years, I suppose it's allowed to last a little bit longer, but it's just really annoying. That can't be right. I'm sure I would have been unwell at other times. Although I don't remember anything on the ship or in Greece, or even in Lapland. That's interesting. So yeah, that was annoying, but hey ho. I do think this is now finally the end of the vlog. I'm sure it's very, very long, so thank you for sticking around if you've made it to the end. Post a little Italy flag or something if you've made it to this part, because wow. Let me know if you've been to Lake Como, or if you've got any exciting plans coming up, or if there's anywhere specifically you want to visit, whether it be in Italy or elsewhere. I'm always curious about travel and want to do more if my job allows it, basically. And it's always nice to make plans in your head about where you would like to go and what you'd like to do. So let me know if you have any suggestions or any personal dreams, wishes, hopes, whatever. And once again, I cannot stress enough, I'm very aware of how privileged I am to be able to go on holidays, and to be able to go on holidays with my grandparents and my father, and, you know, to have the flexibility and the money and the means and everything. So I don't take that for granted at all, and I really do appreciate it. But I hope you all have a lovely day, night, evening, whatever time of day you're watching this, and I will see you next week, or maybe even earlier, depending on when the video comes up. Sometimes you get a Sunday video, sometimes you don't. I don't know if this week will be one where you do or you don't. We'll see. Bye!